Okay, well, I am back again a little sooner than I thought I would be. Turns out my wife is painting the hallway, which is the central hallway in our house, and she says, shoot, 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 go find a room and stay in it for about an hour. So that's what I'm doing. And I thought I would take this opportunity to do a review of the first Warhammer role playing game that I bought, which was not that long ago. But before that, I would like to once again shout out thanks to GM Juice and the rest of the guys. I actually did my first uh, online role playing last night, role playing game. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. The crowd was terrific. The group were terrific. They really, really were and still are. These are a great bunch of guys. I enjoyed myself immensely. Thank you all for a very good experience. And yeah, we're going to do it some more. Perhaps you've not seen the last of Melik Chant, Tiefling Bard. So I would now like to get into uh, my review of Only War, the Warhammer, or one of the Warhammer 40K RPGs. The initial reason why I picked Only War was because I've actually played Warhammer 40K. That was a long time ago, a really long time ago, seems like. But I played it, and I had the Cadian Imperial Guard, the Cadian shock troops. I think I had some stormtroopers as well. Um, I had a squad of space wolves and a squad of Sisters of Battle. It's kind of an eclectic army, but I was collecting figures because they looked cool. But overall, I had my Cadians and my my friend Greg Garrison. Wherever you are, my friend, I hope you're happy and well and safe. Um, he had the boys, the old space orcs, who were more of a kind of, at least the way he played them, were almost a Three Stooges army that still could kick butt if you weren't careful. But we played just to have fun because these were nice looking models and such. And what actually drove me out of the whole Warhammer Games Workshop hobby was A, the ever increasing price spiral. Those things kept getting more and more expensive. And B, just the cutthroat competitiveness of a lot of these people, especially the junior high school set at that time, who went to these little miniature wars with a win at all costs mentality and a very unpleasant viciousness. It just did not appeal. It really did not. So I gave all of my Cadians to my friend Greg. I don't know whatever happened to him. And went on my merry way. I did, however, notice in gaming that you could always tell at least if I was playing historical miniatures, you could always tell the heavy duty, hyper competitive Warhammer guys, at least in my experience. Because boy, they were intent on winning and doing whatever it took and whatever way they could bend the rules. They would rules lawyer you to death. And there's one thing I really don't care for is some hectoring rules lawyer yammering and nattering. Um, and yeah, this really sucks. Later on, I think I guess probably I met other Warhammer players who were pretty mellow guys. They were really nice, and they had a good. But I really didn't want to go back. I was going to say they had good heads on their shoulders when it came to competition, and I didn't want to go back. I have had other things to do. I had other genres. I had other types of gaming that I liked, including miniatures gaming. So Warhammer passed from you. I know that I think it was 2008 when they started. I know there had been a Warhammer fantasy role playing game, and actually some of those books were pretty nice too. I remember really, Mordheim, for example, looked very interesting to me, but I was just kind of like, I don't think so. I had a set of Mordheim. I wouldn't mind owning it again. It was a really nice little set of skirmish rules. Howsoever, back to what I was saying. In 2008, they started coming out with stuff for Warhammer 40K, role-playing games now. This was pretty good. I know a lot of people that thought, Dark Heresy is so cool. And I'm like, yeah, okay, a lot of these people like it, and we'll see what it's like. So finally, um, just to see what it was like, see, how I would respond to quite frankly, a genre or a system, whatever you want to call it, that I had really walked out on. I went ahead and I got Only War, because Only War deals with the Imperial Guard, which were the troops I commanded. And I thought, okay, well, got into Warhammer 40K originally because I liked the Imperial Guard, liked the Cadians. And sure enough, they're in here. The listen to the Cadian shock troops. And I just figured, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. Now, I bought the book, opened it, read through it, and for me, one of the big tests of the game of an RPG is how easy is it to do character generation? How easy is it to do? That sort of, how easy is it to make a character? In this case, I was really delightfully surprised at how easy it is in Only War to gen up a character. Relatively speaking, I mean, it's not Savage Worlds easy, but it's not so arcane that you just couldn't sit down with a character sheet and a few other, in the book, and within maybe about 30 minutes or so, you've got a character. It's pretty good. The combat system is decent. The system for, I guess you would call it psychers, yeah, pretty decent. Vehicle rules are all right. Yeah, everything works, and it works quite smoothly. To the point where, I was like, yeah, you know, I like this. This is okay. The thing I like about it too is this is it. This is the core book. It is not separated out into player's guide and, GM's guide like D&D 5th edition or a number of other books. You just get the whole shebang right here under one roof. And I like that. I like that. Uh, they've got a number of splat books out for this now. I happen to have in PDFs, and the material is well written. It's very interesting up to a point. And again, you have it's mechanically good. I think it is. You've got a lot of skills, and they also have a system in here for creating your own regiment. You want to do the Cravonian Jaegers, or the uh, Asgardian Fusiliers, or whatever you wish. You could do that, and they will actually shape your character. That's fascinating, and I like that. Now to give you the things I didn't care much for. To tell you the truth, I'm not a real big fan of the Warhammer 40K background. It's well thought out, it's well written. It doesn't work for me. Probably as much because of this as a lot of other things. And yes, I am a Vietnam veteran. I've served in the U.S. military. I put in 3 years, actually 2 years, 9 months active, and that was the early out you got for going to Nam. But I have served. I know a great deal about how militaries work. My biggest criticism of Only War, and in fact, the entire concept of Warhammer 40K is, geez, it's the worst parts of World War I trench warfare. And that was what it is to me. It just seems like all you do is fight. A lot of the way this stuff is written, there's nothing really interesting going on. Now, perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps, I'll get a game master, that'll say, come on, Frank, why don't you play? Or probably going to get off my butt and write an adventure up the way I would like it. Modify the background a bit to where it doesn't seem to be this eternal slog, complete with commissars who are going to shoot you if you show cowardice, the whole 9 yards. Screw that. I'm not interested. I know they existed. Um, for example, during the Spanish Civil War in the late 1930s, the leftist forces had commissars. You had actual incidents with the Abraham Lincoln Battalion and the George Washington Battalion, where we actually had Americans executing other Americans on the battlefield. Because a commissar's job is, if you run, he will shoot you. At least that's what it seemed like a lot of them did. And of course, the notorious, faceless Soviet heaps of human slag, as some people would look at them. But there is a scene in Enemy at the Gates where the Soviet forces are retreating because the Germans have shot the hell out of them. And then all of a sudden, the commissars are standing there with their lackeys with machine guns and open fire on them as well. Horse crap. I don't care for that. End of statement. It seems as if when the writers wrote this, their model was the worst excesses of trench warfare, the worst excesses of totalitarian warfare. It seems as if this is almost an anti-war role-playing game because they've made it so incredibly horrible. And, that's fine. That's how you view it. That's how you set up your universe. Fine with me. That's how you do it. I just don't like it. And I'm going to modify it, or at least the way I run it. But if you like the whole Warhammer 40K, slog out of the trenches and just get going on it, it's going to work. It'll work for you. It also helps explain a great deal the 40K universe. I like that. In fact, it was reading through this whole thing that led me to say, I'm really not crazy over this, their whole conception. So I think, well, I'm going to change it. And I would advise you buy this book. Now, like I said, I've got a couple of the Splat books. I've got the Hammer of the Emperor, or the Emperor's Hammer. I can't remember offhand right now because it's on PDF. And that's a pretty good one. It gives you a lot of extra material. I've got Enemies of the Imperium, which pretty much gives you the sorts of enemies the Imperial Guard is kind of there to face. And I've got Shield of Humanity, which deals with the support services. Now, I'm going to kind of conclude this by bringing up perhaps something that would be very useful. And probably something I'm looking at seriously using as my background. Aliens. Well, here's the Aliens. They called it an adventure game. That's what they used to call it back in the 80s. And I got to tell you, Leading Edge were, in my opinion, some of the worst role-playing games ever put out there. They were mechanically not only complex, they were stupefying. This was some of the most convoluted, baroque RPGs ever put out there. But the background material in here is very good. It's got a mission generation system. It's got all sorts of stuff in here about the world of aliens. At least, their interpretation. Now, you add the Colonial Marine Tech Manual as the underlying stuff for Only War, and I think you will have a very good time. Now, you don't, not just the aliens, but create your own background. Or if you, like I said, if you like the universe of Warhammer 40K, go for it. You're going to really like this book then, because it is a slice of life, the day-to-day existence of the less than elite, perhaps, no powered armor, no space marines that are genetically enhanced or anything like that. We're all grunts here. And again, I liked it. I recommend it. Hats off to Fantasy Flight Games for doing an excellent job. The artwork is amazing. Some of the best artwork I've seen yet in a role-playing game. Thought I'd throw that in there. It's really very good. And what I like is the Imperial Guard, the different uniforms. And the intriguing thing is, no chainmail bikinis here. These are fighting ladies that look like lady soldiers, pretty much. So that's pretty much it. And again, a recommendation, very highly. I highly recommend this book, especially if you are a Warhammer 40K fan. And we'll take it from there. So everybody, have fun, play game.